It's the real word. It's the real word. It's the real word. It's the real word.
We on a mission and that's bringing y'all the truth. You know the problem, but we get into the root. The devil watching, yeah, he always on pursuit. But Jesus is our rock, so we shall not be moved. We on a winning team, so we can't lose. We say facts, cause we hitting y'all with proof. Started from the bottom, now we standing on the roof. As God as our witness, we gon' make it to the moon. When you want the truth, the world be hiding it. This the real word, we providing it. We got Ace, BK, Truth, Rick Star, and we plan to make a movie like it's Pixar. We came a long way from the plantation. We just trying to save your souls from damnation. So if you down with the message, tune in every week. It will lead you to the message that you seek.
It's the real word. It's the real word. It's the real word. It's the real word.
Welcome to The Real Word. This is Season 6, Episode 8. Shout out to everybody for watching. Shout out to everybody for supporting. We thank you all for being here with us. We thank all of you for supporting us and helping us to get thus far. I'm your host, Rickard, Jean-Noel of The Real Word. I'm here with my co-host. Introduce yourself.
You already know, the one and only AI, Ace Irving in the building. Have me on Instagram, Ace Irving 11, no 11. That's not me, man.
Have you got one of the original co-hosts in the building? Introduce yourself.
I'm going to say be a contributor. It's your boy Tom Hagen, the mayor of Crown Heights. I'm in the building supporting my brothers. Put my brothers in position. You feel me? In our prison.
Facts. We also got a special new guest, his first time on the show. So show him some love. Introduce yourself, brother.
Assalamu alaikum to the world.
Salam, my brother.
My name is Rashad Bey. And I'm just here to offer, information to the brothers and sisters, Give thanks to Rickard for having me on the show.
It's love. It's love.
Also the co-host that he have on there. So
that's love. That's love.
Speak the knowledge, speak the truth, and
that's love.
Uplift humanity.
That's love.
So shout out to everybody that's watching us tonight. Shout out to all my guests and my co-hosts for being here with us tonight. You can catch us on YouTube. That's www.youtube.com/therealwordtv. The Real Word TV, one word on YouTube. You can also catch us on Instagram at The Real Word Ministries Inc. on Instagram. That's The Real Word Ministries Inc. The Real Word Podcast on Spotify, Apple, Soundcloud, and also Apple Podcasts and also Pandora, The Real Word Podcast. So you can catch us there. You can catch us on the Brick Network every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 a.m., 4 p.m., and 12 noon. So catch us every Tuesdays and Thursday on the Brick Network. If you're in Brooklyn, check us out. So Mr. Ross Bey, tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
What I do is introduce what I used to do, or what my specialty is as far as plumbing, electrical, those service that are my, service that I offer, generally through the day, and I've been doing that type of services, for the last 20 years. Of late, introducing to culture and history and our science. I've now instituted or instructed or constructed, a place to where now, adult lessons could be issued and children lessons could be issued for, more science and, the upliftment for our people into, these affairs that we need to deal with as far as nationality and these things,
When you talk about more science, because that's a term that we hear a lot, what exactly is more science for someone that wouldn't know?
Well, more science is a part of an ancient culture, or what we are descendants of, So when we talk about the Moabites, or the ancient Moabites, and you come to the moral science, then we're talking about knowing of the ancient culture, the ancient history, who our ancestors and who we are descendants of to this day.
Can I ask you this? Why do you think it's so essential for us to know that?
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so essential?
Well,
very key.
Let the people know.
It's, as the sayings we all grew up with, you're not going to know who you are, where you're going, unless you know where your foundation is. So
yeah.
It's what they call that root. Everybody has their roots. So
yeah.
If we don't understand where we came from, then you're not going to be clear where you're going or where your foundation lies.
Okay.
A lot of people lost.
You mentioned something about nationalization. What exactly is that? Because we hear that term often too about being a nationalist. What exactly is that for those that don't know what that is?
Well, generally it deals with, what they call nativity. It deals with, birthrights. It deals with, places of origin. Once again, it comes back to ancestry. So, we're all, knowing or unknowingly, we all actually have that right.
Yeah.
So.
And what do you feel is what do you feel
Freedom
is our natural birthright as Moors?
Freedom of will.
Natural birthright? What do you mean by?
Because you talked about natural birthright. You have natural birthright, right?
Right.
So what do you feel is our birthright as black people, as Moors? Because we're Moors. Moors mean black, right? Mm-hmm.
No, Moors does not mean black.
What does it mean?
That's a usage of what they call black, or a terminology that we've been or our people has been cast or branded as. You know what I mean? Moor is just, what they call a navigator, or one that comes through the womb of what they call the woman. Once you have a navel, what they call that navel, that anybody comes through that passageway of what they call the stargate of that woman, you are a Moor.
And okay, so black and Moors is two different things, right? So, okay, so what do you think? So how could you, if one wanted to define what is a Moor, what is the definition of a Moor, and what is their message to the people in regards to that?
Well, it's not really a message, but it's nativity.
Okay.
More would go back to, we talk about nativity, then we're talking about nationality. So, we're talking about ancient places, what they was known as when these national lands were derived and created and still exist to this present day. There's been renaming and of land masses. There's been there's been introduced of cultures that has been brought in, to other land masses. So, a lot of the people are, maybe absolutely are lost in, to a lot of the ancient history about ourselves, the culture about ourselves. So, so when we talk about Moor, it just goes back to, anciently known as what the empire or the land was, Morocco, or which is still as known as, so Morocco would just be you, saying you a Moor because you are a descendant of what they call Morocco, of what they call the ancient Moabites. So it's a lineage, connection to it. It's not just saying that you're Moor, but having to do with ancestry.
Okay.
You spoke about something about renaming and reset. We know Reconstruction took place back then, and what's going now is the Great Reset. So what do you think about this Great Reset that they keep using? First they hit us with the new phrase called the new normal, which is an oxymoron in itself.
Okay.
Because how could something be new and normal at the same time? But now they're saying that there's a Great Reset going on where they're transitioning people into a certain avenue that they want us to go for future generations. As in the changes that are happening now, the future generation, that's going to be normal for them.
It's based on perception, based on history, based on understanding, what these political contracts and, what the scene is all about. So one will take it or may, perceive it as, something going to something new. One may perceive it as something going into something old, but it's just really understanding nature. Everything is a cycle. So, what we may presume or, think is new or old is really a cycle. It's really,
Just like how they say in politics. In politics, everything happens for a reason, and it was all made ahead of time.
Years ahead. Because they're saying individuals in power plan everything years in ahead. Like 10, 20, 30 years in ahead. But us, we barely plan our day for the next day. You said something about you trying to start a school, right?
Well,
how is your curriculum that you're going to teach different from the average curriculum that we usually learn?
It's because it's going into culture, it's going into our history. It's taking away what we known as the renaming, the great renaming in history that we're all is now correcting those notions, you know, filling in those blanks, you know, answering the questions why, you know, what brought about that. So we need to start getting to the hardline facts of the truth and stop this, you know, just calling it for what it is.
But what hardline? Can you like give me like 2 examples of what hardline facts are you talking about?
Well, I mean, simple. Anybody could do this research, and anybody could look it up. You know. As far as history that's been taught, you know, 1492. They said this place, you know, over, you know, in what was known as Ethiopia was named Spain. So, you know, if you look at the dates and if you look at true history, you know, there's a lot of misnomers or misprisons behind that, because dates and times, when you check them out, it doesn't correspond to those names that they're calling it, you know, around 1492.
I told him when Christopher Columbus allegedly discovered America, because there's proof. There's proof. There's proof that prior before, actually, it was black people that actually helped them to get to America. But prior before, I know for a fact that Moors or black people would always navigate back and forth with the natives, you know, in North America, and there was no, you know, there was no problem. So there was always navigation, and we know also that the Moors was the one that brought science and culture to Europe, taught them how to bathe, taught them how to eat properly, taught them, you know, when it comes to animals, don't sleep with your animals, you know. The Moors are responsible, responsible for that.
You know, just like what our prophet teaches us, Noble Joe Ali, you know, it's all about, you know, uplifting, you know, what we call humanity. So even if, you know, whatever faults or whatever, you know, experiments or whatever things came off of that nature, it was still about the humanitarian aid to uplift it.
Okay.
So, you know, it's really on all of our duty, but, you know, it's just that, you know, however you want to put it, you know, it's once again, it's a recycle in history. It's a cycle in history. When you check by the dates and time, you know, there wasn't just one plague. Plagues have happened, you know, throughout time in history. So goes back to the cycle that we're talking about. So corrections need to be done, and you know how we're addressing these things.
I have a question actually. Why you think plagues occur? Why do you think that occurs? Why is that?
Well,
up top,
you know,
up top.
Without being opinionated, let's deal with nature. You know, if you know nature, you know, takes out anything that's anti-nature or you know that's against her. So you know, take away any opinion, plagues are brought in because either man or, you know, things have came in that man has introduced that was anti-nature.
So do you feel like the COVID-19 is a plague, or you feel like, because I don't think it's natural, I think it was brought in by man.
Well, it's you know, for those that are doing their research, you know, that's pretty much, you know, self-explanatory, you know, it definitely is. It's just now going back to not knowing who we are, you know, not knowing that, you know, the political arena that we're dealing with, not knowing the contracts, you know, that we're assigning ourselves to, not knowing, you know, the terms that we're, you know, going by, you know, correcting these things, you know, with understanding, then you understand, you know, what they're calling the political game of, you know, today.
And what are they calling the political game today, if I may ask?
Well, you know, it's about when you understand what they call treaties and what you understand the Constitution, and if you see the facts of the matter of the political game that they're on today, it's, you know, far off of that original contract. So it is on everyone to, you know, check and weigh the balances and ask the questions. You know, what is the issues, or why is the so-called political, you know, structure the way that it is today, and how does it affect us?
I want to ask you this because you sound very intriguing, right? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, the way it affects us is to keep us at the bottom.
Brother's deep.
What? Okay.
Keep us at the bottom while the 1% get richer, and we all know what the 1% like to invest into.
Wow.
This is into depopulation.
Okay.
And when they do depopulate the masses, they get to keep. That means that they get to keep more wealth. I mean, this happened back in time too. Like, I'm not. I could think of a couple of times, but they're not clicking into my head right now. But yeah, like this is nothing new. It's a part of history.
Nothing new underneath the sun.
Yeah, ain't nothing new under the sun. It's the same thing like back in Babylon days. Same thing. It's just different. It's just new. It's just like as generations come on, it's like they just come out with different tactics, but it's still
what they call it a modernized, version of,
Yeah.
But there's always lessons to be learned. There was a lesson in those errors that was to be learned that wasn't corrected. There was other lessons
still
to be
ain't
learned.
Corrected. It still goes on.
But this what goes
and what you think of the lessons are, the primary lessons?
Well, the lessons is, if you have a system that they're calling politics or whatever, something that affects your well-being, whatever system that is going on to.
People that
once you reach an age, once you come out of the adolescence age and you go into that adult age, then, it should be on all of our duties that we should, take interest because it's something now, regardless if we understand it or not, it's affecting our life at some point or another. So to be ignorant of it and just saying yes or no or disagreeing with, what social media or what media is saying about it, that really, is not enough for us once we reach a understanding that these things literally affect our lives.
98% of the internet is fake.
We need to be more proactive in the understanding of it.
When you say proactive, break that down. What sense?
Okay, let's go back to what the contracts is. What's the original contracts? How did these parties or these unions or these confederations or whatever they're going under styled as today? What was that original contract?
The Constitution.
Oh, that was one of them.
What else?
There's other contracts.
The Articles of Incorporation.
Of what they call Articles of Association. Articles of what they call Confederation.
Is the Bill of Rights part of that too?
The Bill of Rights? Well, the Bill of Rights was what they came, amendment to what they call the Constitution.
But at the same time?
That was, came in 1791. That Constitution came in 1789.
Okay.
So we're going back to those contracts. So before that contract even got a footing, let's keep a timeline in history. What gave precedence to that contract to give that contract a footing?
I mean, there's the Magna Carta.
Well,
is that no? Or are we going deeper than that?
Well,
further.
Okay, see, we go to nativity, so let's find out when these contracts, where they derive from, and who was a party to them.
Yeah, but with all these contracts and stuff, at the end of the day, people can't blame the government. It's like, one, you willingly came to the country wanting to be governized. Correct? Because when you get a social, that's how they stamp you. Like, all right, you're a slave worker. We gonna build you into our image. Teaching you America history, which they literally wrote that in the Bible. No, not in the Bible, but I meant library. Like, that's literally how they wrote history. They just gave you this history because each country you go to, they're gonna give you a different history.
Right.
Because it's just like, it's the same tactics used, but it's just different countries and they teach their own history. But at the end of the day, they all wrote that like in a library. It's not that hard to know. Like, people don't have the knowledge to know that. It's like, you willingly, what they really teach you is to, like, destroy yourself. Like, you have the freedom of will to do what you want to do, right? But you can't see a lot of it because they tell us 20/20 vision, right?
Right.
But a lot of people don't really have 20/20 vision because some people can't tell the difference between real and fake.
Right.
And like a lot of people today, they don't even know that. They don't even know their own history. Like, all they do is just go on Google, and we all know Google. Right. That's fake.
Right.
And all that. So it's like people just have lack the knowledge, but you can't. People need to stop blaming other people for their lack of knowledge.
Right.
It's like, it's not his fault. He suckled you.
Right.
You just didn't do your research.
Goes back to what I was saying as far as once you reach an age, then it's on each individual, man, or woman, to understand, these things that affect them, these things that are governing them. And you refer to what you say government, so it goes back in history now. Then if you understand these contracts, then you always see those terms that come up with talks about we the people. Mm-hmm. But before we even go into we the people contracts, like I said, there was what they call a primogenitor contract.
We the people.
There was what? A prima?
What I mean by this.
There was a primogenitor contract that what we called gave that constitution a footing.
And what is that called?
Okay, what we talk about treaties.
Yeah.
Treaties.
Like I pledge allegiance, right?
No,
treaties. No. It's called what we call the treaties. All history around the world when nations either get into conflict or for trade reasons, treaties were made for safe passage and preserve and for rights and heritage or
for peace, basically.
Well, and not only for peace, but it also had a nationality attached to it when it comes to those.
And mostly commerce, because
you got what I'm saying?
People can't really make, like, there's more money to be made when there's not war, but literally people make money off of war. That's the irony.
That's true.
Well, that is true. That is true.
That's the irony.
I mean, that's the present day what they call motto. But like I said, going back to these contracts, if we're not holding them to the contracts, if we're not exercising the contract,
we don't know.
We're not holding ourselves to the contract. Why should anybody else respect that contract?
But the Bible says, my people shall perish because of a lack of knowledge.
Absolutely.
And that's what's been happening to us
Absolutely.
now. Because a lot of us don't read, a lot of us don't care to read.
Facts.
Like, when you gave me that thing to read, I forget about the person.
Dred Scott,
exactly.
Absolutely.
And it clearly states in a Supreme Court decision that the Constitution wasn't created to protect people of color, which means they don't acknowledge you as a person underneath this Constitution. Therefore, it's not for you.
Right. Was it the Constitution, or was it what they called the laws that was prescribed at the time? It was what the laws was prescribed. It does not recognize color.
Yeah, it wasn't recognized.
So understand that, once again, coming down to these identities, coming down to these caste systems, coming down to these brand names that was issued, that we're now present day doing contracts in, we need to understand is what affects us.
That's real.
Because that contract turned a man into property. And he said a man
Absolutely, brother.
A man shouldn't lose his property just because he goes to a different state.
Absolutely. So now the identity of you not knowing, where you're geopolitically located, calling something that was written on paper, now you're giving it de jure a what they call jurisdiction.
Wow.
By you know what I mean, giving it authority.
Brothers,
so we gotta understand that these things are all aligned to where history teaches that.
A lot of people don't know that, because I studied law, and you could beat a case based on lack of jurisdiction.
Absolutely.
You had no right over me to commit these things. So therefore, your laws do not contribute to me. Lack of jurisdiction.
Absolutely. Well, everything's about the understanding. Everybody thinks that
knowledge is power.
What they call systematically race. What they're using. It is but it's systematic. But what it is goes back to what you say about the ignorance. Ignorance to the law is no excuse.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
So, in law does not recognize color. So we now have to correct ourselves, take that out of it if we're looking for remedy and restitution, and now, bring, the proper status.
That's true.
What's recognized amongst nations, amongst the world.
So you
this
spoke.
Is what.
Sorry.
Go
ahead. You spoke about contracts. You spoke about certain laws, and you also spoke about interest, right? So that brings us all to trust.
Okay.
Because we're trying to find a ramification for all of which is going on around us.
Okay.
So from your point of view, right? Because I'm sure that with the knowledge bestowed upon you and in you, you were able to correct these wrongs that were done to you. So therefore, if someone was trying to understand this better, what form of education would you be able to provide to them? Just the basics.
Well, like I said, the erudition that I would, provide is a continual thing. We're all what they call, occupied. So there's not like, there's anything special about what I'm doing or what any of our brothers, are doing out there. There's many great teachers that we can learn from, Taj Tariq Bey, Dr. G, Rise of the Moors, Duke Acee, the Duke, Sabir. There's a lot of brothers out there that are giving wealthy information to help correct our understanding, about what's really going on here, especially on that, what they call that political, jurisdiction is what, is what has us captivated, occupied.
Politics.
That politics is what I call it.
So you're saying politics have us in prison to a certain?
Well, it's the enslavement of what we think it is present day. You got what I'm saying? It's the structure is the structure, but the non-understanding of the structure in how it's operated, how things are worked is what the problem is.
No.
You got what I'm saying? We have to understand that, if you look around the world, and like I said, you use the word government, right? Look around the world, right? And you look at that term president, right? And if you define or look up that term president and all over the world, that can only apply to any rulership or governorship to a corporation.
Yeah.
So, everybody else has a prime minister, all of these people that are appointed.
Or chancellor.
Chancellor.
Or king or queen.
King or queen. But, if you hear those, that's dealing with also jurisdictional, guidelines, governance, and boundaries. So when you come to that president, that's just straight corporate. There's no, so when you...
But the thing is that America's not the only one that has presidents.
Yeah, but if you look at who has a president, also will be known to have an emperor.
So America has an emperor?
Does America have an emperor? Well, America is what they call...
It's a republic.
America is that,
It is owned by Europe.
It's what?
Huh?
It's owned by what? By Europe?
Oh, Europe. Well, if you understand what America is, so we're talking about what Reconstruction of history, right?
Okay, I'm listening.
What was the name of the land before it was renamed, or the New World, what they call America?
What did they call it? Put me on.
Okay, well, it was also known as Al-Aqsam al-Maghrib, or what they call, it's on that Federal Reserve note, the Great Seal, or what they call Al-Marak. Empires was all over the world. America, what we call present day America, and that deals with the continent. That's geopolitical again. The term America, you can't just be, thinking about
just the United States.
Just the United States.
Because it's Canada and it's also Mexico.
We're talking Alaska.
Oh, from Alaska, right?
We're talking Alaska.
All the way down.
We're talking Greenland. We're talking what they're calling the United States jurisdiction, which would be North, Central, and South America. We're talking the surrounding islands. We're talking the Samoas, and we're talking Hawaii. All of this is what we call the Americas. So when you hear that term, geopolitically now,
but why do they call it the Americas?
I think it was named after America Vespucci.
Yeah, there you go. That's colonization. Colonization rule.
The conquest,
you win, or you're the victor.
Yeah, like Africa. So Africanus. Yeah.
You and I went into that Africanus the other day.
Yeah, that's tracks.
We thinking that Africanus, conquered the whole of what we call Ethiopia at the time.
No.
For further study,
only
we seen that. What they call Nambia, or right by South Africa.
Yeah, because somebody call it some people call it a Kippilan, some people call it Kush. You know your stuff, bro.
Some people call it Egypt, some people call it Ethiopia.
Kupta is really, when you deal with those names, which was the sister city to what we know as Egypt. Here we go again, going back to that. Renaming, new construction, or reconstructing.
They're gonna rename it the future.
But this is now where
what I think?
This is what the problem is. This is where it's all on us now. We now have to be responsible now, and let's stop, going along with the get along, trying to hold back something with what these boulets, Sure, you guys know what boulets are.
Of course, we know what the boule is. My man's
So,
tapped in.
For the ones that don't know what the boule is, explain it to them.
It's kind of cool.
For the people at home.
Yes, sorry.
Well, the boulets are the ones them, you know, generally that's the ones that are hired by what they call those Roman, you know, oligarchs or those servants to the crown.
Yeah.
You know,
The aristocrats.
I'm not even gonna pick, you know.
No, there's
service. They're being service to something that they know is against their.
So the black servants.
Yeah, like the pastors. There's pastors who are part of the boule too.
Yeah. Oh,
That's absolutely a fact.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what it is.
Yeah,
That's what it
it's
is.
a fact.
You know.
Singers, rappers.
The pastor position or the black minister was the first high up position within the black community during that time, only because, perfect example, Nat Turner, where they gave him a certain position and he had certain privileges because he was a pastor, but he was using the word of God to subjugate his people and to make the slaves more docile.
Right.
So that's why the
To my Nat
preacher-
Turner to make him more docile.
Yes, like that was the job of the black pastor, to quiet down slave revolts.
Okay.
by coming in, but then once he started reading the Bible and he started understanding, and the Spirit hit him, then he really started to understand like what he was doing was wrong.
Okay,
that's when he pushed the revolution, and they violated him. Like they flaked him, where they peel his skin off while he was halfway alive, and they turned his skin into bags and purses and wallets. You know, so
that's crazy. Something every
so
day.
That's one of the things that a lot of us, you know, go through today. And it would seem that usually they use our own people against us to subjugate us, and that's something that keeps going on over and over and over.
They want you to
go
against your own will.
You know what they call my friend is my enemy. You know, that's the only way. What they call that infiltration is really exploited or, you know, instilled or brought in. You know, it has to be someone that either, you know, knows you, looks like you, or, you know, that's what they use to try to bring you down. You know?
Wow.
So I mean, you know, we all that.
That's real.
You know, history just, you know, but we got to understand also in history that those brothers that we speak of make mistakes. Those brothers did make mistakes. So the history is, you know, good to know. But we can't just now continuing and just saying, okay, we're going to accept the history. Sometimes you got to dig a little more and try to look for, you know, underlying what they say narrative or underlying, you know, issue that was not spoke about when we hear about these great leaders or these names that, you know, of our ancestors. You know, we got to know that there was, you know, a collective
a pro quo
purpose, but a lot of them got sidetracked or hindered from what that collective was to do.
Did you feel Malcolm X was sidetracked?
It's not about did I feel he was sidetracked. I felt that, you know, knowledge comes in degrees. We all get knowledge in degrees, and it comes at certain times. So I felt that
literally
his understanding just, you know, when he fully came to round, he just moved on, you know, his understanding. You know, every time I look back at his history, you know, he was always a man of action. That's what I really admired about him, you know. A man that was of action. It wasn't, you know, even if the knowledge that it came wasn't maybe sound, it wasn't 100%, but the passion, you know, to uplift the people for humanity, he was that man of action.
Yeah,
so,
and he definitely wasn't a sellout either.
You know, like I said, man of action, and I could always respect that.
Okay.
And,
but people have a different rendition of Martin Luther King for some reason. They feel like he was more so the sellout, even to a certain extent. Malcolm X was calling Martin the sellout.
Right, right.
He was the sellout.
Right. It was.
You think he was a sellout?
Yeah. He was more definitely a sellout.
You sure about that? Because he sacrificed a lot.
Here's the thing.
He was on the payroll of the government, though.
His life.
Majority of his speeches
all right.
was written by the white man that was signing his checks. And I know that for a fact.
I would say this.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
I have one dream speech.
I would say this, knowing history, all right, and the history will reveal itself, you know. Before what we know as Martin Luther King, anybody could do this, you know, for their
That's
research.
not even his real name.
His name was Michael.
Yeah.
So understanding what they call Lutheranism. So,
you know the real Martin Luther King.
You know, so it's about
Martin Luther that created.
you know, Lutheranism.
So his name is Michael King.
So that was, you know, allegedly born, you know, Michael King. You know, then, like I said, whatever the church or the baptismal that went through, then it went to Martin Luther King. So, but you know, anybody could, you know, do the research on that. But to answer your question about sellout or this or that,
Yeah.
Yes,
I would say it's obvious there was agreements made. Obvious. He sat down at the table. If you're dealing with any political, or if you're dealing with agreement strategy, there's a table that you have to sit on. Negotiations to meet for peace, for, you know, strategies, for always a table that, you know, you have to sit amongst these people. So was he at that table? Absolutely, he was at that table.
He was.
Was this decisions that, you know, he's made sound was for his people? Absolutely, they were not all sound, and there was errors that he was, you know.
Like what era?
Look, he spoke.
Well, let's look at this.
Because he got assassinated. He did, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that came on the fact that now truth is being revealed.
Yeah.
On now that the error, that the agreements that I made was not really in favor of my people. It was actually
They put money on
further
his head.
subjugating my people more than liberating my people.
Some people put money on his head.
With the understanding of it and where it was leading, now truths were being made. So you can check back maybe 4, 5, 6 of his speech before his assassination. And those that were, you know, as he was talking about the pastors, which are, you know, these black masons or whatever connotative title they want to call themselves, then, you know, this is, they knew what the order was. So
And Martin was a part of that.
That's
Like
why
he spoke at powerful venues that's like Mason places, and the only type of people that could be able to speak in those venues got to be a part of them.
that's what I said. We should be.
You can't.
You see what I'm saying? The level of where we should be now, honestly, shouldn't even be at if he was a part or not. We should be past that. Let's get to the level now. What was the error? What was the contract that was made? How do we correct that?
But okay, so things that you think he got assassinated because of the mere factor he was speaking for in behalf of poor people, right?
Correct.
And also he was against the war in Vietnam.
Absolutely. He was even for those, you know, what we call those hybrid Europeans, for the poor man's campaign or those unions.
because he needed a bigger backing.
Exactly. So he was even for then. So his, you know, I guess what he was doing for the people, you know, was different than what was going on that political. So the agreement for the political, he had to use the people not to draw in for the numbers now to, you know, deal with it on that political roundtable side that he was sitting at, and who was also in office at that time when those things was.
That was Lyndon Johnson.
And who was in also was in office at that time.
Kennedy.
The assassin. Okay.
No. Kennedy came like probably before after that was Johnson.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But in that office.
But it took him out because he didn't want to. He didn't subscribe to certain things as well too.
Oh, here we go. But we're talking about now a whole bunch of brothers, you know, and sisters that were sitting around that table. You know, the women are not even spoke about, but there was women at that table too, brother. So, like I said, there's a lot of negotiations that are made that we're unaware of. Then the contract is presented to us, us not knowing, you know, the full details of the usage of the language. Now we may check this, sign this, and now underneath this contract.
That's real.
You know, so
They said the English language is a spell.
It's a bastardized language.
it's yeah. In origin, you know, it was for commerce and trade. If you really, you know, for its use.
Wow.
It wasn't really as
That's the reason why
for
they say we.
you know, the common language. It was
Well,
for
that's
force,
real.
for, you know.
That's real. Man, you know your stuff, bro. You're deep. Brother's deep.
So when it comes to correcting this, what do you think is one of the best ways that we can correct this moving forward as a people? Now that we are in somewhat of an age of awakening, we can say, or age of enlightening once again.
2020 vision.
Yeah, the age of Aquarius. So how can we adjust to this new
Still is a problem.
change that's coming around now?
First thing is truth, brother. First thing is truth. You know, we got to, you know, come to the reality that, you know, the so-called methods or practices that we, you know, been practicing does not work. You know, we have to now come to the reality of things.
But like you said, the truth. A lot of people get paid millions, even billions of dollars just to keep the truth away from you and just to keep deceiving you.
That's why I say we can't rely on, you know, those foundations or those structures anymore, because what has it done? What has it done?
So in regards
the
to
1% rich.
In regards to becoming a nationalist, right? What would be
Nationalist or national?
A national, sorry. What would be the benefits of becoming a national?
It's really not a benefit. It's really a birthright. So it's not, you know, it's like you said, these things what those 1% are, you know, trying to hold on to.
That's a problem.
They're exercising this, you know, based on your behalf or your so-called servitude that you're consenting for them. You know, so.
Somebody check. Okay. What's up, y'all? This is part 2 because we was disconnected. We had technical difficulties, but we're back. So this is just part 2, and when we edit it, we're gonna put it together. So we're here with the dictionary, with the law dictionary, and Brother Sanders. You changed the page. There you go.
Yeah.
Read what Black says in this. What's it called? What's the name?
This is the American Dictionary of the English Language, the Noah Webster's 1828 edition. You know, which is pretty much the first what they call dictionary of the usage of what they call the English language.
Okay.
You know, around that time in the year and date that it was published.
So 1829 American Dictionary of the American Language by Noah Webster. So Webster Dictionary still. So read this.
It says black means wan, livid, to become pale. It says to turn white. It says true. It's true in a sense, because you know 2 black people can make a white person. To become black, to blacken. It says to bleak, to isolate, to expose the sun, or to bleach. Wow.
Michael Jackson.
It says it is, wow, it's interesting, of the color of the night, destitute of light.
Destitute
of light.
Absolutely. That's a key word, you know, to
darkened by clouds as the heavens black with clouds. Sullen.
So basically,
having a cloudy look or content. It says atrociously wicked.
Okay.
Horrible.
Okay. Parts of speech, so, you know.
As a black deed or crime.
Right. Parts of speech.
Dismal.
Right.
Mournful. But that's not, it's more than this. I mean, that's not necessarily true, is it?
Well, like I said, if you go from the usage or the origin of when words was created, that term, you know, could never apply to you and I to this present day in the uses of the word. So if you really want to look at the question or the question to be asked, when did we now apply a word that normally applied to what they call the albions or what they call somebody with pale skin, bleach skin, when the word was originally applied to? So how do we now, to this very day, now apply the melanated Caucasian
Wow.
that definition of word, you know? So
wow.
That's, you know, we gotta
that's
understand.
interesting.
You know, something, and then look at, for instance, what they got going now, which they're calling the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
You know, so,
I don't support that nonsense.
but if you look in, you know, how deep, or if you look, you know, into it, you know, you actually see using, you know, the root of the word.
Wow.
That really more applies to, you know, what we call the albions, you know, the hybrid European, more than it can apply to what we call the Asiatic, you know, copper tone, you know, people of the Americas. So
let me ask you a quick question, right? Now, the Black Law Dictionary, what does that consist of exactly?
okay, so this goes into what we call, you know, dealing with law. So it goes into, you know, origin or usage of terms of words dealing with law. So, you know, specific what we call usage.
Okay.
So another word that I just wanted to show you, breaking off of that from the word black, I just wanted to show you going to a word what they call color. As we was going into before, that law, you know, does not, you know, respect color.
Wow.
You know, so let's go to color. If we identify ourselves as color, you know, what happens to us in law, you know,
We get lost in the sauce and not protected by any rights.
Okay.
Brother's deep.
That's what's been happening to us.
This brother is a problem.
So we got what we call, you know, I got a couple of them there for you. You got color of office, you know what they call.
It says an appearance,
Okay.
semblance, or similar crumb, as distinguished from that which is real.
Oh, can we stop this right there?
Yeah.
Just by way, as distinguished from something that is real. So it's just clear on the notion. And remember, this is a law dictionary. So I'm going to read it back just for...
So when you said people of color or colored.
Right. You know, if any one of the use, so we're talking even white, we're talking even black, we're talking, you know, green, purple, or blue, whatever you want to go, if you choose to go under that identity.
That's why
knows that law does not, you know, have no respect for, you know, those views or those identities that you're prescribing or bestowing upon yourself.
This dude is a problem.
That's why now, under the term minority, you hear so much people are covered and so much people receiving minority benefits.
Right.
And you saying, wait, minority?
Right.
Yeah, but there's not a lot of African American
Brother's deep.
I guess privileges at all.
Right.
And everybody says it. They always count us out.
Right.
And going back to Scott, it's just damn blatant.
Why do you think they hate us so much? Why do they hate us so much?
When you say they, who's they?
I don't think they hate us.
Yeah, they,
white
me,
supremacists.
White supremacists? Well, it's actually the myth of white supremacists, because if you look at the usage or when anybody started identifying themselves as white, that wasn't until 1854, so that's just the other day. So is it really white supremacy or the myth of white supremacy? It's really about, you know, enslavement or controlment of the mind.
Yeah.
You know, so we can call it this today, that
It's
tomorrow.
all a mind game.
But that's what we call systematic.
Mm.
You know, calling somebody or giving somebody the power in your mind, calling it white supremacy, knowing his origin or his genetic makeup is not of such. Then, like I
So
said,
so what do we call it originally for a person that's a different color? That's white.
It's not about color.
So
if you wanna,
but the thing is that the people that's oppressed
right,
is us.
everybody was oppressed.
They oppressed us.
right.
A lot of different people of different backgrounds and
Of course,
colors.
white people, yeah.
You think it's just an hybrid European that's oppressing you? You think he's, you know, the only person that's oppressing you?
You don't think your own people
You
oppressing
don't think it's your own people that's oppressing you?
A lot of your people.
Or you don't think your people is going along with some systematic foreign, you know, rule of law that has nothing to do with your nativity or who you are?
Yeah.
And you think that they're not going along with that, oppressing you?
Yo,
That's what I said.
I don't know what to say.
Some people
Huh?
sell out.
Wow. I'm like,
If one of
wow.
us in this room wanted to oppress the other because we had a certain privilege, or if we had a certain privilege,
Right.
or money even,
Right.
or if I had a certain percentage more than you, then I could oppress you, right? I could build a gate to keep you out. I could put certain things in your neighborhood and keep certain things out of mine.
Exactly. I could put all the distractions around you, so you'll never be able to make it out.
And that's the key. It's about the distractions. So if you want to go to the biblical reference, that's what they call the temptations, right?
We got a lot of distractions out here now. We got iPhone, we got tablets. We got
That's real, my brother. That's real.
You know, so it's to minimize what they call those temptations and really understanding, you know, the world that we're in. You know,
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickednesses and false principalities in high places.
absolutely, absolutely.
That's what we
Brother's
deal
a
with.
It's all
problem.
a mind game. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
That's why they pay. That's why people get paid millions and millions just to keep it away from you.
It's really the control.
Yeah.
You only can keep something that you give. It's
Wow.
really a
That's why it's like life is like a psychological warfare.
They only can keep something you give. You know, knowledge can come in different forms. Knowledge can come through meditation. Knowledge can come through, you know, just a walk through a park, or, you know, knowledge can come in different forms. It's not just what we call the literal art form of what we call knowledge. Knowledge also comes through experience, creativity.
But experience
music,
is wisdom. I mean, wisdom. When we say experience, that's wisdom.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Because it's, the knowledge, the wisdom, and then it's what they call the understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So once you, collectively,
it's a problem.
Understanding that.
Brother's a problem.
So do you believe that we download information and knowledge from a quote-unquote cloud or from the universe, that some people say?
It's the ancestral link if you're into your ancestors.
Wow.
You can call it a cloud, you can call it,
Brother's a
ETC.
problem.
But if you're in what they call, what they would say, I guess they would refer to it as religion or, ETC. But if you're into that, then, that's just that communication, that link to it,
So what's a way, all right, some people call it the third eye, or the kundalini, I believe it's called.
Pineal gland.
Chakra.
Yeah, the pineal gland. A lot of
tapped in.
A lot of individuals believe that we have it closed due to the things that we eat, the things that we do, and whatever and whatnot. So, what's a way that the young people could open up that third eye? Because I feel like you and I had this conversation. You was talking about the deities that they worship as gods, but it was more so a way of thinking. It was more than one individual that thought that way and that connected them spiritually. But then we look at one deity, let's say Jesus Christ, right? Where people give that Messiah entity, and in the Bible it says that he was connected to God directly through the Holy Spirit, right? Not saying that none of us are not, because we are, literally. But some of us block it out, and like you said, some of us fall to temptation, sin, lust, those things, drugs, alcohol. That separates us from that, and we are consumed, I would say consumed by the things of the world. That's why they call us consumers, right?
Correct.
We eat, literally. So like, what would be the best way that we could adjust this behavior? Because I would say it's a behavior, something that's learned, and humans are creatures of habits, and within 30 to 90 days, that habit becomes a religion almost.
Absolutely.
So how can we correct this programming?
Same way that it was brought in, unlearn it. It's if it's brought in that way to where now you're repetitively doing this method.
Wow.
Unlearn it.
Brother solid.
A different method or a change. You can't, what they call, you can't continue doing the same thing without no result. That equals what?
Insanity.
Okay, brother. So there has to be an understanding that, okay, something's wrong here. Instead of me keep making the right. Let me try making the left and see, if I find something or, we're all seekers at the end of the day. When I say seekers, we're all seekers of knowledge or information or
Brother solid.
Or self.
So that's what it is. Of self, absolutely, because that should be the first understanding one should, have. It's not my belief, but do my research and, this is what I see it to be. Once I understand self, then,
So, catch your question. So you read the Quran?
Brother, I read all of them, brother. I don't look at myself. I'm not religious, but I would read the Torah, I read the Bible, I read the Quran. As I study all.
Would you consider yourself to be spiritual?
We're divine and spiritual by our creation, so I can't say I'm not that. That's what we are created to be.
So, man, it's solid. My man is solid. Any upcoming things you're trying to do that you want to let the people know?
What we call under the House of Angels, I can be reached at House of Angels 444, and that's on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Definitely could be reached out.
House of Angels.
Yeah, 444, but definitely, services that I provide, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're doing adult and children's lessons, so as far as understanding treaties, understanding Constitution, and directing them back to nationality, because, that Constitution is actually exercised by many nations amongst the world. But with that Constitution also came with a nativity or, a nationality to it that represents it. To be a party of it, you have to have a nationality,
You talking about the U.S. Constitution?
What they call a Constitution for the United States, absolutely, brother.
A lot of people don't understand that the United States of America is a company. It's built like every other company. You got a president, vice president, treasury, a cabinet.
Correct.
And then it has other bodies within it, checks and balances. Just like I would say Congress would serve as HR, kind of. But a lot of people don't look at it from that perspective. They look at it as...
And following timeline, contracts are where we're at today.
This guy's a problem.
You understand? That's what our biggest problem is.
Wow.
It was contracts. It was
Guys,
abridgments of
problem.
contracts. There was things that were done. And that's represented, on that Federal Reserve note that we, refer to as money, but it's, it says what it is. A Federal Reserve note.
A shekel. A shackle.
It's all about usage, brother. There's certain things that within ourselves, within our daily operations that we gotta, start calling it for what it is instead of now us,
facts being around the bush,
assuming or giving it a perception that it's really not.
Wow.
Because it's all in your mind. It's like once you believe in your mind, then it becomes a reality.
That's all you gotta do.
Do you believe that we live in a fractal universe? That's what I'm saying, that we're nothing but a computer program that's downloading information and that's always learning. You ever seen like the video game, like the Sims video game? You see how the Sims video game you create it, and most video games when you're not there, you think in your mind, are the people in the video game still operating when you're not there, or just standing still waiting for you? And there's video games now when you come in, they be like, okay, we've been waiting for you. Like my little daughter, like she's 2, and there's this game, it's a cat game, and you take care of the cat, like you wash the cat, you feed the cat. When the cat just stand there, you could talk into the phone, and the cat says everything you say back.
Oh no!
And my daughter, and then I'll be like, I'll take the phone and I'll say, "Hi, Amelia," and the cat says hi to her, and she be laughing. So like that's the artificial intelligence that they're creating. So that's her world now.
Correct.
Because she's 2 years old and she could sit up on the bed with the iPad and she just do all type of stuff. And I'm like, who taught you this stuff? And she looked at me like, what do you want? What do you want? Like she'll tell me that too. Like, what do you want, Daddy? And I'm like, what do I want?
And these children here, they come here knowing what's going on.
Exactly.
They get way more smart.
They come to hustle.
They come here knowing what's going on.
That's why
it's hustle.
The ages, the ages. Maybe we'd have to do a part 3 on that, or come back and get
but let me just get a little synopsis, at least like a 2 minutes. What does that mean?
Let me ask you, how you came into this world?
I have no idea.
Through the Matrix.
How you came into this world?
Yo, I have no idea.
Through the Matrix.
Okay, you came by the womb of a woman, though.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Which is
you
the
came
Matrix.
through the womb of the woman.
Yeah.
Nah, I just don't want like. That question sounds rhetorical to me. That's why.
In the book of Exodus, right? You're a pastor.
Yeah.
It says, "For man shall be, in order for man to know himself, he shall come out of the Matrix and be reborn."
Okay. And when you understand who she is, that's the Stargate.
To be reborn, which means you was already born, but you're reborn in a different form.
But you come back through, or what they call reincarnate through, or come onto the manifest Midgard Earth through that Stargate, that woman, that Zodiacus.
That's why sex is called penetration. What are you penetrating? You're penetrating the vortex, which is the cervix.
And then there's the electron.
Just do Rickard, man. You be into some stuff.
There's the electron, the neutrons, and the protons that now create what
you're in a different type of timing, bro.
And the nutrients that gives it life.
Absolutely.
It swims into there. It swims. Think about swimming. The backstroke.
And it's more electrical. Think about a positive and a negative, or a metal touching a positive and negative, and you see that spark.
Think about it. Sparks will fly, right? Between the man and the woman.
That Stargate. So that's what it is. So we come through that woman, that empress,
And they create magic. Yeah.
And that's the Stargate, So
that's how you
we
get
always have to honor her and, really
so,
or truly.
So you believe that we was here and we died and we are reborn again. And it keeps going, Is that what you're saying?
Well, okay. This what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My studies. I don't like to say, about what I'm saying or my opinions, And I would just say off of the studies that, what I understand to this day, there's many signs, and you can refer to it in what they call the Bible. You can refer to it in the Torah and the Quran, so you can find the references.
They talk about reincarnation in the Bible.
Absolutely.
Remember when
every single one
to be born again.
Absolutely.
Remember when Jesus came and it was like, who is he? Maybe he's the reincarnation of John the Baptist or Moses. They said that in the Bible.
What's so powerful?
But when it came to him, he
Right.
said that
All right.
that's not the case. That's the situation.
All right, I'm so glad we got into this topic, actually. So beautiful. And I just want to say happy holiday to y'all, because this is actually the winter solstice. So known as in our culture, you know, is actually a holiday. So understanding what they call that Christ story, or Jesus Christ, or Christ Mass, you know, this is actually that day that it starts, the 3 days, right? As he was going into, you know, about the...
Listening.
You know, so let's go compare that, or let's put that with the biblical text about the 3 days, and then on the third day, then it did what?
He resurrected.
Okay, so we're on the solstice, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, that 25th. That's the resurrection, brother. So what's happening in what we call the, you know, in the ancestral fields, or what we call planetary, you know, is now written
That's brother.
and expressed into what we call the biblical heliotext, or the Septuagint, you know, all of these studies. So this shows you in our culture we was connected with what they call so above, so below. You know, we was connected with the stars and, you know, the astrology. So, you know, when you understand that Jesus Christ, or the Christ Mass, or, you know, the Son dying and then being resurrected, you know, this is actually the first day of it. So this is a beautiful day and a beautiful time that we're in.
This brother
Understanding
something.
culture, history, and
Wow.
You know,
Card is tapped in, bro.
That's why they say the Son and the Son.
absolutely.
You know, all life comes from the Son.
Absolutely.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. What gives us life? The Son.
The sun, which we were always actually known as what sun gods or thing. Was it idol worship? And we knew that that was the energy source for.
Wow, I'm done. This
Calculate.
brother is a problem.
You calculate time and space.
This
with
brother is
sun
a
now.
problem.
But that's why you have no knowledge of before you were here, and even after you're gone. It's only you're in the middle. That's the only part that you get to live, in the middle. Right now we're in the middle, as in like we're not unborn and we're not dead. We're just conscious in the middle.
Right.
But we don't know what happened before, what's going to happen after. And with that, we can close out. So we thank you all for joining us today. Don't forget, this 24th, we're going to be giving out toys in Southside Jamaica, Queens, to all of the children in the low-income neighborhoods and in the shelters. So thank you to everybody that donated. Shout out to everyone that has helped us to accomplish this task. That'll be our fourth quarter initiative, and then we close out for the year. So shout out to everybody that supported us throughout this whole entire year. I believe this is the last episode for this year. Wait, no, we got one more, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the last episode before Christmas. So shout out to everybody that donated to the Feed the Homeless initiatives in the Bronx and Harlem. Shout out to everybody that donated to the coat drive, the clothing drive. Shout out to everybody that donated to the turkey drive. Shout out to everybody that donated to the toy drive. Shout out to everybody that has helped us so far, that keeps giving donation and that just keeps supporting. Share, like, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the Brick Network, Pandora, Soundcloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, catch us everywhere. It's The Real Word. So we thank you for all that. We close out with a prayer. You want to pray? Do you pray or no?
I mean, do your thing, you know. Islam, peace to the family, peace to the community, peace to the world, you know.
Yeah, he's praying.
You know, just want to say,
Wow.
our brothers, you know, let's let our people stand up. Let's do what we got to do. You know, it's our time. We're in the Aquarian age. You know, it's no time to fear, nothing to be afraid of, and you know, let's be ourselves and be unity and let's be as one. You know, so peace and love to the family, peace and love to the community, and peace and love to the world.
So peace and love to everybody. So we thank all you for coming out today. Thank you to our guests for coming out. We appreciate you. And
I don't even know what's happening.
this is The Real Word. Thank you and good night, everyone.
Wow.
It's the real word. It's the real